Good evening to you. My name is Chinemerem Joseph and welcome to this edition of You and the Economy. Today, we'll bring you a report on the high points of the 283rd meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, which took place recently. As keen followers of You and the Economy, you may know by now that the MPC is the highest policy-making committee of the CBN. You will recall that we told you the MPC was set up to facilitate the realization of the mandates of the nation's apex bank, especially those that focus on price stability, which encompass the management of interest rates, as well as inflation and exchange rates. The MPC also provides support to the federal government to facilitate the realization of its economic policy. Now, the committee is headed by the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and it meets bi-monthly. The first CBN MPC meeting of the year 2022 took place from Monday, the 24th, through Tuesday, the 25th of January. In line with tradition, the MPC took definitive decisions on all the four key economic parameters that it deliberates upon at each of its meetings. These are the monetary policy rate, which we usually call the MPR, the cash reserve ratio, which is the CRR, liquidity ratio, and asymmetric corridor. Also, as it is the norm, the curtain was formally drawn on the 283rd MPC meeting with a press conference. At the session, the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, briefed the media on the outcomes of the meeting and other major decisions taken by the committee. You and the Economy was at the post-MPC meeting press conference, and here now is our report on the event. Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee met for the first time in 2022 to deliberate on key macroeconomic indices and also sets the pace for the country's economy.
13.21 and 13.85% in November, respectively.
From the highlights of the committee's meeting, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, notes that the economy is expected to continue on a positive path following the impressive growth recorded in the third quarter of 2021, reflecting continuous recovery from the recession.
Committee noted with satisfaction the significant improvement in the Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index PMI, which rose to 52.0 index points in December 2021 compared with 50.8 index points in November 2021, reflecting the continuing economic recovery. This expansion was driven largely by increasing business activities in the economy, leading to increase in new orders and uptrend in employment and production levels. The non-manufacturing PMI, however, declined marginally to 48.0 index points in December 2021 from 48.6% points in November, largely reflecting a decline in services.
Top among the committee's consideration is the country's inflation rate, which has continued to rise. They attribute this to increased demand during the festive period, suggesting that the uptick in the numbers could be a momentary development. But members of the committee believe that inflation will moderate further in the first two quarters of 2022, driven by significant interventions in the agricultural sector.
Committee noted with concern the slight increase in headline inflation year-on-year, to 15.63% in December 2021 from 15.4% in November, following 7 consecutive months of decline. The unexpected increase was attributed to both the food and core components, which rose to 17.37 and 13.87% in December 2021 from 17.21 and 13.85% in November, respectively. The committee, however, expressed confidence in the bank's sustained intervention programs, noting that inflation will continue to abate as food supply improves. Members also noted that the seasonal drive in price development associated with the December festive period was largely contributory to the marginal increase in price levels, and as such believes that this episode of increase in December may indeed be temporary. After a moderate increase in December 2021, headline inflation is expected to trend marginally upwards in the short term before moderating towards the end of the first quarter of 2022. This moderation is expected as food harvests progress towards the end of the first quarter of 2022, thus improving food supply. In general, with the bank sustaining its intervention programs through the year, food inflation is expected to trend downwards in 2022.
After deliberations, the rate at which the CBN lends to commercial banks and often determine the cost of borrowing in the economy was retained at 11.5%. Other policy parameters were also left unchanged.
After a careful balancing of the benefits and downside risks of each policy option, MPC decided to hold all policy parameters constant, believing that a hold stance will enable the continued permeation of current policy measures in supporting the recorded growth recovery and further boost production and productivity, which would ultimately rein in inflation in the short to medium term. The committee thus decided by a unanimous vote to retain monetary policy MPR at 11.5%. In summary, MPC voted to retain 1. MPR at 11.5%, 2. Retain the asymmetric corridor at plus 100 and minus 700 basis points around the MPR, 3. Retain the CRR at 27.5%, and 4. Retain liquidity ratio at 30%.
The committee insists that holding these monetary policy parameters is in furtherance of the central bank's effort to strengthen Nigeria's economic growth through the expansion of credit to the real sector. They also believe that despite the rise in inflationary pressure, retaining these policies will help to further boost the country's economy, while inflation is expected to moderate in the medium term. At the end of his formal address, the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, fielded questions from accredited members of the media in a session during which a host of important issues were addressed.
With inflation beginning to move up, should we expect any signaling soon that rates may move up to rein in inflation?
We're trying to do everything possible to make sure that we don't go in that direction, because we believe in what we're doing. Last 8 months, we've seen inflation moderating. We believe that what happened in December is temporary, and we have looked at various issues. And primarily about is that why do we see prices going up? We found out that prices at farm gates are in line with our expectation because they are somewhat moderated. However, prices at the markets, where our statisticians take their survey, are high. So if prices at the markets are high, there is therefore some problems between the farm gates and the markets. So we see logistical problems, essentially bordering on transportation, essentially also bordering on maybe destruction of food produce or perishable items from farm to market. And we're trying to see what we can do. And that's why we're trying to encourage people who are interested in looking at how to resolve the logistical problems of delivering food from farm to market to come in and take advantage of some of the interventions that we have. We feel that holders are here playing their games. Those who buy and hoard wait for dry season for prices to go up so they can take advantage at the detriment of innocent Nigerians. Luckily, we started a program last year where we said for our own repayment of our loans under the Anchor Borrower program, we will receive the produce into our own silos and our own warehouses. And we will dispose them and sell them to the real end users, whether it's the millers, the rice millers, or the feed millers who need them to produce, so that through that mechanism, we can be seen to be competing with the herders in the market to moderate prices. It worked well in 2021 because between February and around August 2021, the central bank released on a monthly basis 50,000 tons of maize monthly through those we recognize as the feed millers, and I'm sure the Feed Milling Association, they saw that this actually helped in moderating the prices, because if we didn't do what we did between February and around August 2021, it would have been worse than we saw. We also have aggressively ensured that the Nigerian Commodity Exchange really comes alive. Luckily, the exchange is under the control of the CBN. A board will eventually be inaugurated, and they will run independently, but we will give them all the needed support for them to play the role they are supposed to play as a large commodity exchange that can hold different produce in our country and be able to compete with those who think they have some money that they go and borrow from banks and begin to hoard products for their own advantage when we get into a dry season. So we are ready for it, and I can assure us that the prices will not accelerate the way people are expecting. We are looking at all the issues involved, and I'm sure by the time we come into the next monetary policy, we'll have good stories to tell.
Congratulations last week for your rice pyramid.
Which newspaper?
The Sun.
Sun, okay. Thank you.
I'm concerned about the people talking about the price of rice. It's still very high. What are you going to do about that?
About the rice pyramids, we did it to test our will and those who feel they can hoard paddy. But I can tell you that what you saw in those pyramids is just a tiny fraction of the quantity of paddy rice in our possession. And I'm saying that we will aggregate them, we'll continue to aggregate those rice paddies, and we'll sell them to millers, and we would like to appeal to the millers that they should also be considerate. We're going to look at every transportation logistics that they're looking at, but Nigerians must receive rice on their plate, in their dining tables or in their dining rooms at moderate prices, and we'll walk through this, and that is assurance we give Nigerians.
You made mention of the 100 for 100 policy program. Please, can you throw more light on the companies that have been selected and what to expect soon?
The essence of the E100 for 100 project is to fund projects that will create employment and stimulate employment, fund projects where raw materials, after installation, raw material content will be very high locally and import content will be very, very low or indeed close to zero. We received about 294 projects. They are being assessed, and I'm told that about 60 of those projects have been validated as okay and good to go. But what will happen, like we said, it's a promise that must be kept, that on the 31st of January 2022, we'll announce the first set of beneficiaries under the 100 for 100 program, and Nigerians, they will be publicized for Nigerians to know who they are, what is the employment generating capacity of those businesses, what is the raw material sourcing capacity of those businesses locally.
The rise of loan sharks too in Nigeria. We understand that loan sharks are neither regulated nor registered. Many Nigerians have been victims. I've seen people even write to me personally on that. So what's the Central Bank of Nigeria doing to check the activities of the loan sharks?
What we have done is to say that there is no need for you to go to a loan shark to look for a loan. People normally will go to loan sharks for loans because they're desperate, they cannot access the banks. And we find in this group mainly people who are vulnerable, the small people's households who need some small amounts of money to do their business, but they cannot access bank finance. As a result, go to loan sharks who charge them. If, for instance, you took, say, 100,000, and they tell you in next 90 days, you will repay 200,000. Those are loan sharks. It's like twice the amount, two times of the principal just within 90 days. If you don't, they seize your property or seize your bicycle or seize your television to collect 200,000. We can only just continue to advise that there's no need for you to go to loan sharks because fortuitously the central bank has put in place the avenue through which you can raise your finance. Is it through a targeted credit facility or is it the small and medium enterprise businesses that we have set up through our national microfinance banks? You don't have to know anybody. Just get onto the portal, fill the form, send your data. If your data is correct, you will be able to access loans. And we have large number of testimonials about people who have accessed the facility without knowing anybody and they have benefited from it. So I can only just advise you not to go to loan sharks. I want you to know this. You say, what is CBN doing to stop loan sharks? I can assure you that if we know them, if we see them, we will deal with them. But they reside in the rural communities. We are not policemen. But when we find them in an organized setting, we clamp down on them and we deal with them ruthlessly. But I can only say that don't approach loan sharks. Go to institutionalized loan institutions to take your money so that when there's a problem, we can reach them to deal with them.
Questions from some of our friends who were unable to hear physically. Now, one is Collins Nweke of Nation newspaper. And his question is, there are reported cases of the scarcity of Naira at the banks, especially lower denominations. What is the true situation and what is the CBN doing to address this?
I will ask our guys in banking supervision to go and investigate it. Nigerian Security Printing and Minting Company prints and mints cash for the CBN. And CBN circulates cash to the banks. We will try as much as possible to force the banks to come and take those cash and to dispense to their customers, particularly low denomination. So I do not see any problems, but this is an information that we're going to take on board, and I'm sure my colleagues that are here that are dealing with those will look at them immediately.
Since the launch of the e-Naira in October, what is the status of that project?
Honestly, I did expect it, the question, because we still have doubting Thomases about the e-Naira program. But let me say that since its launch about 3 months ago, Nigerians have continued to gradually adopt e-Naira as a fast and reliable means of exchange. While transactions recorded range from P2P, that is person to person, or person to merchant, P2M, bank to person, person to bank, and bank to merchants, and merchants to bank, the person to bank and bank to person constituted 90% of what we see in the market. And as you would have observed, we spent the last 3 months observing and monitoring the system and addressing issues mostly around initial onboarding. Transactions of the system have been super fast and remain free for now by design. The e-Naira is account-based, which means it requires a digital identity. The system was opened for the banked, which essentially means one would need a BVN and an account number to be able to create a wallet. Stringent validation procedures were enforced to preserve the integrity and security of the system. We feel that you must have a BVN and you must have an account to be able to access it. And we also find that this has created some kind of constraints on people about onboarding with BVN and the rest of them. But again, we believe that what we did by the use of the BVN is the best so as to avoid fraudsters from hacking into the system. Most of the complaints received were mainly around the inability of prospective users to onboard and activate their e-wallets due to a mismatch of BVN enrollment records. The bank has therefore been working to simplify the process of updating such information together with Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, NIPS, and the Deposit Money Bank. Considerable progress has been made with the release of locked accounts for re-onboarding. It is also now possible for foreigners to onboard as long as they have a BVN. I'm also happy to announce that with the recent assignment of the e-Naira USSD code by the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy, and we thank them, Nigerians without a smartphone who represent the majority of the population will soon be able to onboard and conduct transactions using e-Naira by dialing code 997. As part of our commitment towards meeting our targets for financial inclusion, we are also working on a framework that will leverage the existing and new infrastructure to soon extend the services of e-Naira to the unbanked.
Cyber crimes have been on the rise. Cyber attacks globally costing about 6 trillion in 2021. What's the CBN doing to protect the financial system about that?
Well, let me say that protection of bank customers or users of banking or financial services remains very, very important and sacrosanct in our lexicon in the CBN. I'm aware that there is the Association of Infotech Directors or Heads in banks, and they continue to exchange information about cybercrime issues, or emerging matters in cybercrime, and how the criminals are moving and how we can stop them. But I'm sure we all know, and we can attest to the fact that cybercrime has reduced considerably in Nigeria, and we'll continue to do everything to ensure that this doesn't happen.
The next question is from Bamidele Ogunwusi of Daily Independent. Mr. Governor, there are concerns about the increase in the volume of non-performing loans, NPL, in the Nigerian banking sector, which are said to be threatening the operations of some of the banks. What is the current status of NPLs and the banks?
We don't agree. NPL is not rising. In fact, the committee reviewed the banking sector financial soundness indicators. The banking system financial soundness indicators remains very, very excellent. The banking industry remains strong and resilient, and they are doing their best. NPL, for instance, in the month of December, dropped to 4.85%, the lowest in almost 10 years. And we intend to continue to sustain it. So NPL is not rising. I also disagree with you here. I hope I have the right to disagree with you. I have the data. Thank you very much, and see you in the next 8 weeks again.
You're welcome back. As was expected, the first CBN MPC meeting of the year 2022 laid out the agenda of the bank in discharging its responsibilities in the early part of the year. It also shed light on a host of important issues that are significant to the public as well as the economy. Well, for more information on the 283rd meeting of the MPC of the Central Bank of Nigeria and the intervention programs and policies of the bank, please log on to the CBN website. It's www.cbn.gov.ng, or you can call the CBN Contact Center on 0700-225-5226 for further information on issues bordering on the way the CBN discharges its core mandates. We now draw the curtain on today's edition of the program at this point. Please join us again, same time next week, for another edition of You and the Economy. Thank you so much for watching.